and I'm here with the candidate for VP for Student Engagement. So, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Tony. I'm a postgraduate studying MA Criminology. For my undergrad, I did that in Medway. I studied criminal justice and criminology with a professional practice. I'm the vice president of the BAME Law Society, and I'm the vice captain of the first team netball. I'm also the BAME advisor for the BAME Law Society.
Amazing. So, I'll just go through the questions with you, and it's probably going to work as a conversation because there's only one candidate. So, the first question is, how would you work with different student groups and organizations to ensure that all students have opportunities to get involved and stay engaged?
I think accessibility is a massive thing. I think there's a lot of services available to students, and I don't think they know about it. So I think the first thing I would do is definitely promote the services that we have on campus and try and maybe revamp them just to let students know that we're here for you, we have services for you. I also think at the start of the year is when students are most engaged. I think that's when we should catch students. Definitely try and talk them through the services that we have available in societies and different student groups. But in terms of student groups, I think like organising workshops and like talking to them on a basis and educating them on what they need to be doing for their societies and their different members, just to help them understand what we need from them.
Right. So, kind of going into what you said, kind of goes to the next question as well. So, how do you plan to measure the success of your initiatives and ensure that they're making a positive impact on the student engagement and also on campus life?
I think talking to the students is a big thing. I feel like coming to this university, Kent Union was a separate thing. It didn't really feel like Kent Union was part of the university, so I definitely think engaging with students and going to talk to them on a one-to-one basis and being like, how do you find university life? I think that's a major thing that I do to measure the success.
All right. So, in that sense, how would you address the needs and concerns of students who may feel excluded and marginalized from the campus life and also from the campus activities?
Um, as a black woman, I feel like I've experienced marginalisation, and I think in order to address the needs of students, I can kind of understand, and if I talk to them, then I can definitely understand a bit more about where they're coming from. Um, Sorry, would you repeat this?
So, how would you address the needs and concerns for those who are marginalized and also anyone who may feel excluded from these campus life initiatives that's been going on?
I definitely think we need to reach out to disengaged students, so like postgraduates, maybe some first years, maybe students that live off campus, even like Medway students. I think, again, showing them the services that we have available, potentially creating a forum for them to talk about, not even just disengaged students, engaged students as well. But everybody's different, and I think everybody needs to find their identity within a society or a student group. So I definitely think showcasing the services that the university has, or the union has even, that will definitely address the needs of students. And I think also, if potentially, I'm still trying to work out the logistics of this, but I think creating a centre for student life, I think that could be a place on campus where students can go, kind of like what we have in the library, that room that we have. I think if there's a place big enough for students to go and talk about anything that's not like academic, that would definitely benefit students' mental health and kind of allow them to network and like benefit their employability skills. So
That's a really great answer, to be honest. So, what's your approach to working with the student government and administration? Because you did mention some changes that you are willing to look into. So, what's your approach to working with the government and administration to implement these changes and which also benefits the student body?
um, I say I'm quite a confident person. Some people might say loud. I don't know. Um, but I'd say I'm quite a confident person, and I'm here to represent all students, not just one specific group. So I think talking to different like people on campus, not even on campus, talking to different governing bodies.
Yes.
Like I sat on the student carousel. I sat on the student carousel to elect the chair of council, and it was really eye-opening to see that we need someone to represent 16,000 people, and I think that that person who is the direct line manager of the Vice Chancellor, I think their role is quite similar to my role in the fact that I need to represent everybody. So.
And what do you see as the biggest challenge that the students are facing in terms of like student engagement on campus? And how would you address it?
I don't think there's just one, I can't pinpoint just one challenge that students are facing. I think networking is quite a big challenge, networking and employability, because I don't think students really think about it until they're in their final year. And it's definitely something that needs to be thought about before. You don't necessarily have to have your life planned out, but it's definitely something that you should be thinking about before. So I think, again, with the Centre of Student Life that I was talking about, that can allow students to network and get to know people, make friends and make maybe future partners, like various different things. So I think that is a major issue, like networking and employability. I also think the cost of living crisis is still a crisis. I definitely think that I've seen the union doing a lot of great things, and I'd like to continue doing that. I'd also say, that's what I'm going to say.
Okay. So one last question before we go into audience questions. So obviously the NUS referendum is also happening at the same time as the election. So what's your stance on the NUS referendum?
I'll be honest, when I first came to university, I didn't even know what the NUS was. I didn't know what it was. And I think a lot of students don't know what it is. So for people to not know what it is clearly shows it's not having much of an impact. So I think we should leave, personally. And I definitely know that the union can use that 30k that we pay to them annually. We can use it for various different things, like support with mental health and helping with the cost of living crisis, and setting up workshops to help people become more employable.
Okay. That's all the questions that I have. So we'll move on to questions that we got from Instagram. So the first question is, what are your aims for underrepresented ethnic groups in relation to student groups?
As a member of the minority group, I think it's definitely important to make sure that students from minority groups are represented within societies, within committees. I think making sure that we use, for the LGBT community, for instance, making sure that that we encourage the use of pronouns. I think encouraging like educating committee members, maybe that could work. I definitely think that we need to be way more inclusive, way more diverse. I don't think that can ever stop. I think people need to see that the university and different student groups that we have are here for everybody, not just a specific group of people.
Okay. Going on to the second question. So what support will you be providing for sports teams relating to transport and accommodation?
I think sports teams already have quite a bit, but I don't think that that should stop them from getting more. For instance, I played netball and we have to travel about 2 hours for near enough all of our games. So I think transport is definitely a big issue. Maybe we could get more minibuses, and maybe getting students to fill out forms about when they need transport, how they need it, how much money they'll need to maybe petrol and things like that. So I think that's something that I'd like to implement towards the start of the year, because you get all of your matches at the start of the year, so you should be able to work out logistics with the union and know how much money needs to be put into that.
Right. So how will you aim to improve organisation of sports teams fixtures to up the amongst Kent Union? Sorry. How will you aim to improve the organisation of sports teams fixtures amongst Kent Union?
I think there's a conversation that needs to be had with students. For me, I don't sit high up enough, like I'm not president of the Netball Society, so I don't sit high up enough to hear those conversations. But I definitely think that there needs to be a conversation had to see what we can do to benefit them, because at the moment I couldn't really give an answer to that.
So what challenges do student groups face at the moment, and are there differences between sports clubs, societies, student media, and community action groups?
I'll tackle the first bit first. I think some challenges that student groups have are getting access to maybe rooms that they'd want to do their events in. I know that takes a long time. Getting public speakers in, I think that's a challenge that student groups face. And also getting equal recognition. I think sports teams get a lot of recognition, and there are some student groups that are smaller that don't get enough recognition. Like, I'd like to do something for maybe the Performing Arts Society, similar to what sports groups have at varsity. I'd like something like that, just to showcase the talent that we have at this university. Would you repeat the second part of the question, please?
So it's relating to sports clubs, societies, and student media. So what challenges do you think those societies face? Are there any differences in those different groups?
Yeah, there's definitely differences. I think recognition, as I was saying. For instance, I didn't know that we had a newsletter. I think students should engage with the newsletter, podcasts, things like that. And I don't think that they get enough recognition or resources. So that's definitely something that I'd like to implement.
Right. And you mentioned that you went to Medway. So going on to that, how would you engage students at Medway? Since speaking from your personal experience, I'm pretty sure it's something you really, really want to do.
Yeah.
So how would you promote it? Engaging students from Medway to come to be collaborative with students here in Canterbury campus.
Yeah, so that's one of my main aims, networking. I think trying to integrate both of the campuses. I know that's something that's already been tried to done. I know that that's already something that the officers have already tried to do, but I definitely want to integrate both of the campuses, and I don't want them to be separate. I think I've described Medway as a boarding school, and I don't want that to be the vibe. I want them to be able to feel like they can travel up here, they can engage in the sports team, they can engage in other societies, or vice versa. Students from Canterbury would want to go to Medway. I think a lot of the resources, obviously because it's a bigger campus, are given to the Canterbury campus, and I don't want the Medway students to feel forgotten. So they have the deep end, they have the library, they have various other buildings, and we can do something with that. It shouldn't be wasted space.
And what's your perspective on the funding for student media groups?
It should be more.
Is that all?
That's all.
How do you plan to engage other societies that feel underrepresented with special interest and academic and community action groups, for example?
I think community action groups, for starters, I think that's something that you need to be passionate about. Like, for instance, I know the Canterbury Homelessness Outreach, they do great work and not enough people know about it. I think just showcasing the services and the student groups and the community action groups that we have, I think, for instance, on like the Freshers Fair, then they can have their store and then they can talk to people. And I think that a lot of the problems that we have is because not enough people are talking. I think going onto campus and having those conversations and asking them if they want to be involved is definitely a big thing.
So another question just popped up. How would you increase transparency between Kent Union and the student body?
This is, again, what I was talking about just now. Conversations, definitely talking about the issues that we face. I think I'm an honest person, so at the end of the day, the students need to know what's happening, what's going wrong, what's going right, and what we're doing to benefit them. So, yeah, having conversations with students.
Right. I think that's all the questions we have on
I think-
Instagram. So thank you so much for your time.
That's okay.
Yeah, and good luck.
Thank you.
Sweet.